Lane Kennedy is a renowned mindfulness and DNA-informed nutrition expert. She's based in San Francisco. She's recognized as a modern-day, no-nonsense calm maker, recovery advocate, and meditation teacher. She's been living in long-term recovery for over 2 decades, and with a background as a seasoned mindfulness teacher for city employees and a dedicated DNA nutritionist, Lane seamlessly integrates mental and physical wellness strategies. Lane's innovative mindfulness programs have become integral to the well-being of San Francisco's 40,000 city employees. And with extensive knowledge and certifications in DNA nutrition, applied neuroscience, brain health, mindfulness-based stress reduction, Lane has positively impacted thousands, fostering recovery, resilience, and enlightenment. And she uses her magical,
It is magical.
yes, hypnotic voice and expertise to guide people back to joy and recalibrate their bodies for greater longevity and wellness. So I just want to say, even though I'm starting this episode with okay, I'm acknowledging my resistance, let's just call it out. I also want to say Lane is qualified. She's impacted thousands and tens of thousands of lives, and I trust her. And I'm looking forward to being in this conversation to just open up and better understand. How did you get started? What brought you to this point in time right now where you're so passionate about ordering DNA reports and supporting your clients with their exercise and their movement and their nutrition and their vitality, specifically through the lens of DNA?
First, thanks for having me on your show, sharing the space with me. I love you. It's just fantastic connect here. So my own story, I was autoimmune problems, back in the day, and no doctor had any ideas, any answers for me. That kind of kicked off my journey about 29 years ago. God, it's going to be 3 decades, which is crazy to me. And, back then, Maraya, there was no Google search. It was me in the library with the Merck manual looking things up and trying to figure out what was wrong with me. And at the same time, I was introduced to a holistic practitioner who just magically, there's the word magic, started supporting me through vitamins, whole foods, and movement. And this just opened the door for me to start investigating my own biology. And over the years, doctors have never made sense to me. We've never connected. I would say, why does this hurt? And they would say, oh, well, I'm just going to prescribe something to you and that's going to take it away. And then it wouldn't take it away, right? Fast forward to, wanting to get pregnant. The doctor's telling me you're not going to get pregnant. And then, I have a 15-year-old and just watching my life unfold because of the path that I was taking, which was holistic foods, movement, supplements, and investigating my human biology. Really taking a deep dive into the neurochemistry, my brain, understanding that inflammation is the cause of all issues. And so constantly trying to keep that inflammation down through everything that I do, understanding that mindfulness is not just a practice, it's a way of life. When I got pregnant and after the doctors had told me it wasn't going to happen, I was like, how is this possible? And that is when I started getting into DNA. I started understanding and I took some coursework and I invested in a company here in San Francisco and just took a dive into it because I knew that there was something there. I didn't know what. And again, 15 years ago, we were just starting to get the data out. Companies were just starting to build themselves. 23andMe was trying to suss things out. And I just kept following those little crumbs of information. And over the years, it just keeps making more and more sense. I've seen a ton of different reports. I've worked with a ton of different companies and seen how the space has evolved and how the reporting used to be just like this, a bunch of numbers and codes spit out onto a piece of paper. And now it's just so robust and there's so much evidence around the specific genes. And I don't like to talk about specific genes so much because people get hung up on, well, I have APOE and I have PPAR gamma and I have the BRCA gene, which equals some kind of diagnosis.
Ah, thank you.
Which I don't really there's no diagnosis here. That's not going to happen. Let's figure out the cause. Let's get down to those conditions of your life. And I think DNA is just this roadmap. And once you understand that roadmap, you can then make informed decisions on how you want to live.
And so it sounds like, I love that I'm hearing that you don't see it as a diagnosis. It's simply information that will help an individual optimize the reduction of inflammation in whatever route
Correct.
and path they want to go depending on where they want to go.
Correct.
Are there any certain tests? So when it comes to DNA tests that you say, these I like, these I order for my clients, I imagine there's a lot of them out there. Where do you go?
No, there's a ton of different tests out there. I was just at a conference and this new company came out and they're like, we're doing this first and this is the greatest thing. And I was like, this is not the greatest thing. You guys are behind the ball on this. So I exclusively work with 3x4 and I work exclusively with them because they are female centered, female owned. Yael Jaffe is a brilliant woman and researcher, and she's done incredible work around weight and women's weight and like weight loss, which is fascinating to me. So I am pro that testing. There's also Intellect's DNA. They're another one. Typically, if you go to a doctor's office, the doctor will say, oh, use Intellect's DNA. I find them extremely expensive and not a lot of information. There's the DNA company, and I just don't get it. I look at that report and I'm like, huh? No. Gary Braca, I believe his name. He's a big influencer. He came on the scene, I think, last year, year before. I've seen his report. Again, a lot of black on the paper. I've had people come to me and say, what do I do with this?
I love this. So, okay, we're looking at a roadmap and not all tests. I think about the Gen Mind test. It's been helpful to go,
Mhm.
oh, wow, I see how it's very clear to read and you're on this antidepressant and you're using this for pain. And wow, based on your genetic SNPs, these might be better options. Then you also integrate DNA analysis with mindfulness. And now you're talking about not only nutritional optimization, but exercise optimization and mixing it with mindfulness. So, can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, like I said earlier, like mindfulness becomes a way of life. It's the lens in which I teach my clients, right? Like I want them to understand that things are not black and white. Like there's a whole big wide open space that you can live in and you don't have to be so reactionary. And when we're in mindfulness, there's the ability to pause and use discretion and discernment. When you're looking at your report and you see, oh, I shouldn't put butter in my coffee, right? Like that was a big trend. And if you have a gene that saturated fat is not your friend, then you should not be doing that, right? But you can pause in that reflective moment and say, do I want to do this today or not? It doesn't have to be black and white in that regard. Humans are incredibly resilient. We are strong. Just look at the planet right now, right? Look at our population. The obesity range is out of control, right? Humans push themselves to the limit. When you're using mindfulness and being able to look at your DNA, it's like, well, do I want to have that butter in my coffee, even though I know it's going to be bad for my genetics? Do I want to do it every day? Or maybe I just want to do it twice a day, right? Mindfulness gives us that flexibility and that awareness to make those decisions.
We're using the data mixed with mindfulness, knowing that it's not a diagnosis and we have choice in the matter and we don't have to carry any guilt or shame around those choices.
100%.
And then what about exercise?
This is so many things that makes me so happy. We hear so much about this is how you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to do a HIIT workout. You're supposed to do yoga 5 times a week. You got to ride the bike every day, right? Like people kind of prescribe to these programs on how to get healthy. And your DNA is very clear on your muscle fiber, your ability to do endurance running, your ability to recover. Wouldn't that be wise information to teach your child as they're growing up? Maybe, they don't have the fast twitch or the slow twitch muscle fiber to do that sport that you keep pushing them into. Come on, Johnny, go play soccer. Come on, go play soccer. Go play soccer. Right? Like, meanwhile, they don't have that fiber, that muscle to do that, where it would be better to put them in swimming because their cardiovascular system is more robust and they have that the ability to do that endurance. When I'm talking to a client, a lot of times she'll come to me and she says, I've been working out every day of the week. I'm doing all the things and I cannot move the needle on the weight. And then we pull up her profile, her roadmap, and she needs to actually work out 3 times a month. And that's it because she needs so much recovery time. So she's actually doing damage to herself by working out 5 times a week or 4 times a week because her body actually cannot eliminate the oxidative stress that is occurring every time that she exercises.
So now we go back to inflammation.
So we're back to inflammation. Exactly.
I want everyone to hear this. I don't know if you use this example, but I think it's important to see the visual. We all know what a bonfire is. So we have wood, we have flame, so we have the fuel, we have the heat. Like, it feels so good to sit by the bonfire while we're camping and stay warm, but nobody likes to be in the line of fire of the smoke, right? So the smoke as the byproduct of that smoke is the oxidative stress that Lane is referring to. That smoke is inflammation. And so sometimes we've got to get up and move around to the other side of the fire. And then in other scenarios, we need to do a better job at cleaning our clothes and cleaning out the smoke that we've been exposed to. So what you're saying is you can help individuals adjust their nutrition, adjust what meds they're on, adjust how they're living, what exercise they're doing
Yeah.
to optimize getting out of the line of fire of the smoke
Yeah.
and getting the smoke out of their body and cleaning their clothes well.
100%.
Can you give some more examples? So let's
Yeah,
get into
I was just
nutrition.
so the other thing that comes up a lot is there's a gene, the FTO gene, which is like the fat gene. Okay, we'll just call it the fatty gene. Women, we struggle, especially when we kind of start to mature in life and we get that little roll around the midsection. Is it menopause? Is it just this is how my body's going to be? I go to the refrigerator every night. I snack at nighttime. This is all genetic. I see this in the reports every day. And so what happens is that there is this frustration point. Like, it can't happen. Why can't it happen? I don't understand. But if you understand that you have these genes, the FTO and the clock gene examples, then it becomes a different conversation around how to become more mindful and more loving for the body that you have. And what are the things that we can do now to perhaps make your legs stronger and your biceps stronger? And let's not pay attention so much to the midsection, because what's going to happen is that you're going to start shifting your weight by just making some course corrections. The FTO gene is you're going to have that weight on your body. Just shift that thinking so it's not so shameful and you don't feel so guilty around standing at your refrigerator every night at 9 o'clock and wanting dessert. You have that gene. It's just who you are. So what's the choice? Are you going to have a tablespoon of honey and some walnuts? Or are you going to eat that pint of ice cream, right? So it's just changing that, okay, how can I satisfy that gene of who I am and not continue down this cycle of, I just can't lose that weight?
Okay, so in this scenario, it's the acceptance that who I am is this person that's going to have a sweet craving at 9 p.m. at night, and I'm going to carry the extra weight either way.
Yeah.
So let's be more mindful with my choices and work on self-love and redistribution of the weight so
Yeah.
that it's in a place that makes me feel a little bit more sexy.
100%.
Is there any realm of possibility that person can actually change and no longer have the sweet craving at 9 p.m. at night and actually make the adjustments and actually lose the weight?
I think it is possible. What I want to be really, really clear here about the Maraya is that, let's just say Susie's 180 pounds. Her bones, her body, her being maybe can go to 160. Is she going to be 120, 130? Probably not. But can she whittle that inflammation down so she feels comfortable in her body? Absolutely yes.
And the beauty of the work that you're doing is it's not just some sterile environment where, like, here's your report, here's your destiny, good luck. You're also bringing in the mindfulness and the self-love and the journey of self-acceptance, and I imagine your decades of journey along sobriety and mindfulness and guided meditation for the city of San Francisco, all of that comes together to be able to hold individuals as they're grappling with, wait, maybe all of my life I've battled with, why can't I be this other way? And you're actually coming in lovingly and saying, you know what, baby girl, this is you. And you get to shift the desire to change and move more into self-love. And along the journey, we are going to work on decreasing inflammation, which might move the needle a little bit with the weight conversation. But we're going to bring the conversation to broader places, which then leads me to, okay, if we decrease inflammation, what else does that signify?
That signifies her knees and her back not hurting.
Right.
That signifies her sleep is better. That signifies her skin starts to change. Her mood starts to change. When I'm creating a menu or a meal plan and the exercise plan for somebody, I know if they adhere to this plan, their body will change. Now, compliance is a whole other conversation. Compliance is the number one ingredient that people forget. And I think that's where my work kind of is a little bit more unique, because I can use hypnosis to kind of drop people into that state of wanting to make the changes that are necessary for them to see the difference in the mirror.
Okay, what about the misconceptions that are out there? So let's say someone has been closed to the idea and is opening up, or they've gone and been told they've got the BRCA gene
Yeah.
and gonna schedule a double mastectomy,
Uh-huh.
or they've had the report read by someone that, in your opinion, has really kind of done an injustice.
Oh,
Like,
yes.
what are some of the misconceptions out there? What the 23andMe, I mean, what is going, awry, and how is it different than what you're kinda bringing to the world?
I think in the 3X world, we look at things very differently. Again, it goes back to the diagnosis. We're not diagnosing people here. We are sharing a roadmap of who you are and who you can become. Who's your future self? I talk about the future self all the time. These genes are going to express themselves. Like, how do you want them to express? I'll give you another example. As we age forward, our bones, do you want to have osteopenia? Do you want to have like a shrinking body? Your genes tell you that. So if you know that when you're 40 years old, you can start taking action for that future self. So why, okay, you got to supplement. Okay, great. You got to start lifting heavy things. Okay, great. Knowing when you're 40 is going to make a huge difference for your 60-year-old self. Because if you start doing it when you're 50, 55, it's a different conversation.
As long as the person doesn't take it on as being heavy or inevitable or scary or fear focused. Like, one person might go, "Oh, I'm predestined towards osteoporosis. Now I have to do this thing, and poor me." And now they're afraid to go water skiing because they might fall and more likely to break their bone. There's that fine line of celebrating the information
Mhm.
and being proactive with optimization
Mhm.
without the layering of expecting negative consequences.
Yeah, I don't think in negative consequences. So I'm not that practitioner. Like, I won't support that. I just, I'm not that. I don't see the world as a half empty. Like, it's always full and we can always change things.
And you must really screen your clientele too to make sure that they also are in the
That goes
same.
back into the compliance. People either want to understand this and they want to live their best future self life, like that life, and they're going for it. They are on board with, I am so ready to make the changes and I'm invested 100% because they want that future self at 60 years old to be up running a marathon.
That's the big that I think we're getting to the heart of it, is to work with individuals that are looking for optimization.
Hmm.
They're not looking for excuses or reasons why the blah, blah, blah.
You know,
They're wanting to take ownership and
yeah.
be proactive in, how can I up level? How can I optimize to be in the place of self-awareness,
Mm.
even when the data might be harsh? Like in my scenario, I don't know. If I had a family history of breast cancer or ovarian cancer or colon cancer, I don't know if I would want to do the BRCA gene test, because for me, I worry that it would plant an idea or create some anxiety within me that leads to a negative consequence in a way that, without that information, I'm still going to be taking my own steps and being proactive to optimize my well-being. Do you get the nuance that I'm working with here?
It's mindset, Mariah.
Yeah.
That is all mindset.
So do you screen your clients ahead of time and make sure that they've got the mindsets to know that this is going to serve them? Or you're just trusting that wherever they are starting, you're going to help them with the mindset work and the mindfulness and the hypnosis and the guided meditation to ensure that they're keeping the switch turned in the right direction towards optimization and towards celebrating the self-awareness?
I don't necessarily screen my clients in that regard. I think it's more around structuring. Like, this is a structured way to optimize your life. Again, I just go back to mindset. Mindset is everything. I go back to mindfulness and meditation. If they're not participating or they are at a hard no, I'm not going to do that, then I am not the practitioner for them, because that really is the foundation of my work, getting into that meditative, deep restorative state so the body can change that inflammatory process, because we know that inflammation causes all disease.
And aging and all of it.
Aging is a disease, right? And without that restorative time, whether that be through deep sleep or through deep meditation, then the body doesn't have a chance to heal.
So you're looking at their DNA report, you're giving suggestions with nutrition, supplementation, mindfulness, sleep routines,
Mhm.
supporting them with their mindsets, sometimes
Mhm.
supporting them with hypnosis. And so who are the people that you're working with? How do people find you? Do you work one-on-one, only in group settings? For those that are listening and they're leaning in, I can think of two clients of mine that I think would benefit.
Mm.
One of them is adopted, and it's been her lifelong journey, and she's done all the things that I remember years ago. I suggested the DNA company, their hormone panel, and we didn't end up doing it, and she's no longer a client now, but I can reach back out to her and introduce her to you. But give me an idea of what does it look like? Who is this for? How do you work with them? How do they find you?
They find me through podcasts, through articles. Everything is through word of mouth. I have no social presence.
I'm so jealous.
Yeah,
I want to say that one day.
I love not having a social presence. I love being able to do the work that I do and make such a impact with all the people that I make an impact with. I feel very, very, very grateful for that. Everything is at lanekennedy.com. And I have monthly DNA webinars, sessions. They're 30 minutes long where I teach about DNA just so people can start to understand, like get a taste of different genes or different ideas around DNA. Because like you said, it's uncharted territory. We're not teaching people about this. I'm very grateful that I can teach this to other people. So typically that's how people end up in my world through watching a webinar, being curious, wanting to move the needle. They found out that back to the osteopenia, just, they had their bones tested and they're like now thinking, oh my gosh, I have to take care of this. How do I do that? Well, we look at your DNA and then we make recommendations around it. And I
One-on-one?
do one-on-one. So
Okay. So it's both. Some
yeah.
people might enroll in a group program and some might go right to one-on-one.
Most people like the individual because it's it's like a lot of information and it's digesting that. But then some people like the group because then they bounce off of each other. So just
Mhm.
depends on the person.
So fascinating, so good. And I imagine it's going to continue to skyrocket at a really fast and steep pace
Yeah.
as we better understand this. And I see lots of people. I mean, a friend of mine was the top ER doc here in the Valley and left. And this is like what he's doing, starting some company. It's all DNA, concierge support,
Yep.
and especially in the realm of optimization. Anything else that you want to add that feels unsaid, important for listeners?
Yeah, I think there's just so much information. I want to bring up cardiovascular disease real quick before we close because, this is a silent killer. People are running marathons and then boom, they drop dead. But if you understand your genetics and you're the type of person that doesn't want to go on a statin and you're like, no, I'm not doing that. Looking at your DNA and understanding your cardiovascular pathway, you might change your mind. You might be more open-minded to taking some different type of statin. You might want to get different testing, right? I can order testing for people. Where do we want to go with this? I just don't want people to think, oh, I'm only looking at my DNA for one thing. There's so much to uncover in your DNA. Mental health, open mind, be curious. And I just really appreciate having the time to share with you. It's been great.
Yeah, absolutely. And I imagine hormonal vitality
Yep.
and
Pregnancy, infertility.
pregnancy,
Yeah,
infertility.
infertility is a big one that actually comes up.
And I love that you're incorporating mindfulness and looking at lineage and past generational experiences
Hmm.
and understanding and getting to know the people that you work with. Isn't it mainly women or is it men and women?
Both.
Both.
50-50. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty great.
And then you're
Sometimes I'll even
getting
have couples, and then they have to change the way they're eating and everything.
so you've gotta be willing to change what you're eating, how you're eating,
Yeah.
supplementation, exercise.
Just have to be open-minded, right? Because a lot of people aren't ready to make the changes, but they at least then have the information to maybe in 2 months they decide or 3 months or they just
Yeah.
know.
And you give them a personalized plan.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm grateful for you.
Yeah, thanks so much. It's great.
Yeah. And we've had some fun times together.
Mhm.
First time we met was at the airport in Denver, right? We were in Denver.
Yes. Yes.
And hopefully you will pass through Ashland, Oregon next time, and we'll get to have some
Yeah.
more time in person. All right, for everyone, lanekennedy.com. Go there. It sounds like that's going to be the main place. And attend one of Lane's webinars. Learn more if you're like, whoa, this is kind of blowing my mind a little bit. I encourage you to reach out to her, and I'm grateful for you and for my place to explore and allow my open-minded space to just learn more about something where I do feel like, okay, I see the space where it fits.
Yeah.
I feel more open-minded, and who knows, maybe one day I'll do some DNA testing with you and
Yeah.
be willing to take a peek at what's going on underneath my hood
Mm,
genetically.
great.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.